Hey everybody, this is Devin Payton. So this demonstration is to show you how to provision a Kali Linux virtual machine consistently, just the way you want it. So if you're into Hack the Box or other penetration testing labs, you can have a consistent environment, the tools that you want, and a place to store your target data if you want it. So Vagrant is a technology that's somewhat new to me. I'm more on the enterprise side, using Ansible and PowerCLI to do my provisioning. But this is a very useful tool for doing desktop virtualization, like on VMware Workstation or VirtualBox, as well as LiveBird. So I have a Vagrant file, and this Vagrant file defines the characteristics of my virtual machine, and it also has a couple other interesting properties. So let's take a look at this. This line right here is very important. What it'll do is it takes a look at this tag and it reaches out to a site on the internet, and it pulls down what's called a box. And a box is just an expression of a virtual machine. It's an archive, a special format of a packed virtual machine. It pulls that down locally, and then it can make rapid copies of that virtual machine, so it doesn't have to go out and pull it back down again if it's cached. So it pulls that down. I think this current version is 2022.4, if I recall. It's a couple months old. So it can also call an Ansible playbook, right? And if you're used to Ansible inventories, there's an inventory kind of hidden somewhere that actually points to this VM. Uh, it also can have different desktop providers. So I'm using the one for VMware Workstation or VMware Desktop. There's other ones for VirtualBox. So make sure that you use the one that you have access to, and download that and install it using the HashiCorp directions. I have a bulky VM here. It's going to be 8 gigs in size. It's going to have 2 CPUs, and it's also going to synchronize a directory on the guest with a directory on the host. And you can see these directories right here. So I have this notion of a shared directory. Inside there's information that maybe the targets that I'm going after, the loot that I pull off those targets, or perhaps the exploits that I'm going to upload to those targets. I have another generic directory called tools, and those tools I might pull down from the internet and archive, or from Google Drive, and have those available to the VM just by virtue of placing them in a directory on my host. So we had the Vagrant file. Let's take a look at the Ansible playbook that comes with the Vagrant file. And this is sort of a cool feature, right? We can run Ansible at the same time as we kick off our Vagrant file. So the first thing I'm going to do is, it's going to take a long time, but I'm going to pull down all the packages and update them. I'm going to install a few packages that are, my usual suspects. So I install Chrome Remote Desktop. These are the packages I like to install on Kali Linux. I like to have Visual Studio Code, and I do a bunch of work with pip modules, right? Like nmap to CSV. That's terribly useful. You can run nmap scan, dump the output file, and then have a tabular output that you can put in like Google Sheets or something of that nature. I'm also going to download the PyEnv installer, and what this allows you to do is rapidly switch from your OS version of Python, which in the case of this version of Kali is 3.0, but some of your exploits are written for Python 2, and instead of converting those exploits from Python 2 to Python 3, you can just hop into Python 2 briefly using this PyEnv suite of interpreters, and then pop back out again when you're done with the exploit. And then I'll reboot my box. So that's it. So let's go ahead and run this baby. I'll pause my video when we get to that big, huge update section, and I'll come back 5 minutes later. So let me make sure I've removed my Vagrant directory. Yeah, I have. So we'll do a Vagrant up, boom. And you should see it try to invoke VMware Workstation and spin it up. Now, that box, that Cali Rolling V box or virtual box has been pulled down already, and so the loading of this VM is very quick. I just made a copy of it and put it in that virtual that Vagrant directory. So this is going to come up, and once it starts kicking off the Ansible script, I will pause the video and come back, and we'll do some demo. So when Vagrant installs, you get your password, your username is Vagrant, your password is Vagrant, and that's something you're going to want to change. When you first interact with your virtual machine. Note this HGFS; it's mounting those directories right now as we speak. If I do a reboot, I sort of lose that. So when you do a reboot, you sort of lose control of Vagrant, and so what you end up doing is using the Vagrant command line, do a Vagrant reload, and it will go ahead and remount these volumes for you. So if you ever see that happen, like you've lost the volumes, just do that reload, and it'll mount them up for you. So I'm going to pause the video, and I'll be back in a little bit. Okay, after a lengthy wait, we're back. The system is rebooted. We're going to go ahead and do a Vagrant reload because once you kick off a reboot with Ansible, you lose those shares. So this will turn on again, and you'll see those shares being mounted in just a moment. And here we go. There's another default share folder there being mounted, but this is the one that we're interested in right here. So we can log in. So the username is Vagrant, password is Vagrant. And we're in. Okay, I wanted to show you two things: the folder sharing and the PyEnv setup. The home host data, yeah. So you can see we have a target data folder and a tools folder, and in here we have the same. CD target data. All right, we'll remove that file. You can see it's no longer there, so we can do hello. And so you can see we have synchronized information back and forward. Let's talk about Python. Here's the default, which doesn't do you a heck of a lot of good if you have a Python 2 exploit to run. So this is what you do. So these are the versions of Python that we have available to us. So we can load more of them up. If you look at the Ansible script, you can see how I installed that. So we can do a pyenv global 2.7.18. And now if we do a Python -- version, we get 2718, and now we can do things like run a Python 2 exploit, load the in packet libraries for Python 2, and things will just work great. We can revert back to the system version by doing this: im global system, and we're back to 3.10.9. So this is how I set up Ansible, or excuse me, how I set up Kali with Ansible and Vagrant. Hopefully it does you some good. Bye now.